welcome to the Be The Push podcast. My name is Jack Ferguson and I'm here to bring you the best minds in small business and entrepreneurship. I want to provide you with actionable advice and help you take the next step in your business journey. I'm here to literally help you to be the push you need. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to this episode of the podcast. We're up to episode number 4 now, which is very exciting. It's good to have your company. We talk to entrepreneur Mitch Hills in this episode, and we cover things like how he started his first business at 16, which is quite an interesting story, how he saved up $100,000 by the time he turned 20, and some of the successes and challenges he had along the way to building a technology company, or more specifically, an app. It's a really great conversation. I loved it, and I hope you enjoy it too. All right, so today we're here with Mitch Hills. Mitch, how are you going?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. So Mitch is the founder of AroundAbout app and the founder of Mastered Marketing. But the unique thing about Mitch is he started his entrepreneurial journey very young, I believe. How young were you when you started your first company?
The first proper company was 16. The first kind of illegitimate company was selling. I actually sold peanuts in grade 7 to hungry rich kids.
All right.
At just astronomical prices.
Okay. How'd that go?
It went really well. For some reason, this one rich kid had never had peanuts before, and he thought they were terrific. And I I'd buy a bag of shelled peanuts, so not even the most valuable ones, and sell them for 20 cents each.
Okay.
Or 3 for 50 cents. And he was like, oh, great deal. And he's getting fed in class. Yeah, but I wouldn't really count that as a company. That was, my mum always wondered why I kept requesting her to get peanuts.
Right. So one of the questions I usually ask is, were you entrepreneurial as a child? And it would seem for you, the answer would be yes.
Yeah. I don't know if it was entrepreneurial or boredom or just, taking advantage of an opportunity. But it's interesting because both my parents and my siblings, they don't have their own businesses, and I actually don't really know where it came from. To be honest, I think a lot of it came from the people I was around. So I started my first actual company when I was 16, doing private house parties for like speakers, lighting, DJs, photography, security, those kind of things.
Right.
Started it with actually Nick Marquesi, who just won Queensland of the Year for Orange Sky Laundry. He's a legend.
Cool.
So we started that, and then that kind of, again, as an accidental business, because I was a DJ and he had sound and lighting. We said, oh, we should do a party. We did one party, went really well. Everyone else wanted parties, and it just kind of happened. And then, but throughout that, I learned like the fundamentals of what it takes to start a business, and then I kept using that.
Right. So did you charge for your first party? How did that actually?
The first
what were the
one,
logistics?
Well, the first one was free because when you're a DJ, you got to kind of just take whatever you can get.
Oh, wow,
and so I can't remember how it first started, but I remember a friend of mine was having a rowing party, and in high school they're quite large, like hundreds of people.
A rowing party?
Like a head of the river party, so like rowing the sport.
Yeah, I know the sport.
Yeah. And then they have like the after party of the head of the river, which is like a big celebration for all the rowers to get, wild.
Yep.
Pretty sure it was a head of the river party. Anyway, so we did that, and that was really good. And then everyone just had so much fun, and I was kind of the only one. There were a couple of people that liked DJing, but I was the only one that was actually doing it. And so someone said, oh, can you do my party? I was like, sure. And then I figured out how much it would cost for Nick to rent his speakers and his lights, and then we kept doing it, and then we did more and more and more. And then eventually we got so many that we had to hire other DJs, and then I was DJing at clubs, and it just kept growing.
So at what age did you have people working under you?
I would have been 17.
Wow.
Instead of 16.
And they were, I'm presuming, all older?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a lot of young guys. So about my age or slightly younger, actually, because there were a lot of eager DJs just like me.
Yep.
So at that point, they were the young guys that just were keen for anything. And so I found 2 or 3 really good guys that I could rely on who had their own gear and just did a really good job. Mm-hmm. And we kept those relationships for years. I mean, I got all those guys sets in clubs, and we kind of built a really good relationship. It was a great little team of people. And then Nick would handle the speakers, and I didn't have to touch anything. I just had to coordinate it. And then we were doing like, the one company would do 3 parties in a night. Yep. And I'd be in a club doing something.
So tell us about, going back to then, what came naturally to you, like the skills that you thought you did well naturally, and the ones that maybe were a bit more challenging in the beginning.
One of the things I've always been good at, and it's probably why I'm now in marketing, is making things sound better than they are.
Okay.
So like there'd be other companies that would say, it's just all copywriting and stuff. So other companies would say, yeah, we do a party for $500. Mm-hmm. And I'd say we deliver the sound and lighting. We pack it up. We unload everything. We set up the photography. You get a professional photographer. You get a professional club DJ. You get all this. And it seemed like this crazy package of and it was literally the exact same thing.
That you're doing the same thing, but you're just listing every little thing.
Yeah, and then
I walk to the door. We walk in.
Yeah, so our prices were slightly high. To be fair, like we were better quality. Like we did have better speakers and we did have better DJs. But we would really milk it and say like it was all this stuff. And like the like we'd say that we'd pack up the equipment for free. Like it's not like they're going to do it, but we just make it sound really good. And it's the same thing now. So in the marketing I do now for small businesses, I take what they know in their head, but they're not translating, and I'll take their passion and turn it into like a tangible asset that people can listen to and see and feel. And that's where people go wrong, is they make it sound boring.
Yeah.
You can take literally anything and make it sound amazing. And I don't mean that in a deceitful way. I mean in like it's just storytelling, and that's what business and marketing is about. Is about telling stories.
What about okay? So you're really good at presenting the things, doing the copywriting and the talking, talk and then delivering after that. What didn't come so easily to you?
I think something I've always been bad at is accounting.
Oh, yeah.
Accounting and law.
That's a common one on the podcast.
Two incredibly important parts of the business. And so, I mean, I understood the basics of accounting. So, I mean, like invoicing, profit and loss statements, the basic stuff. But when it comes to like balance sheets and assets and liabilities, like those are the things that when you first start in business, you're like, oh, I can't be bothered learning about that. Or you just kind of skip over it, which is so bad because you need to do it. And especially like, we talk a lot about having a team and finding the people that fill your weaknesses. But when you're yourself, you obviously can't afford to have more people. So you do need to learn those aspects. And a lot of people just... Legal and accounting is two big things, myself included, that I skipped over, which you really need to do properly, because it'll make all the difference in your business. Yeah. If you don't know... If you're... so many things you can get wrong.
Were you a good student at school?
I was just a normal student. Right. I mean, I got a OP 11, I think, or something, like just really average. Like I don't
know what that means. I'm from Victoria, so
it's just like it's normal.
Okay,
there's between 1 and 25, so 11's almost right in the middle.
Okay,
and so but what I would do, I stopped playing sport in about grade 9, and I would just work. So I remember actually we're sitting in the city. I went to school at Terrace. I would walk all the way to the mall to work at City Beach for $8.90 an hour for 3 hours. And then I'd spend like an hour and a half getting home, and I would just do that almost every day. Okay. And then I got a pay rise to $10.50 and I thought I'd made it.
Yeah, right.
I was like $10.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And then I got $12.50 and I thought it was amazing. And then I just it's funny, like looking back, that's kind of where I started. And then but that's what sorry, that was a tangent. In school, I was just a normal student.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd always loved the idea of making stuff and doing different stuff and just having money. Having $50 in high school is like having 50 grand right now.
Yeah. Well, you wrote a post a little while ago about how you saved 100 grand by, I think, the time you were, was it 20?
Yeah, so just before I turned 20.
Yeah. Why? What made you do that? I was probably closer to it minus 100 grand at 20, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously living at home only costs $50 a week, so that helps. But that's a small factor. The biggest thing is like, the good thing about DJs is that a 17-year-old DJ can get paid the same hourly rate as a 30-year-old DJ if he's doing a good job.
Okay.
So it's not like DJs are contractors. They're not. It's like value-based selling, not hourly rates. You don't have to work way up. And so if you do a good job, you can get paid good money. So I was doing DJing. I was also helping manage a nightclub in the Valley, and I was still doing the Pogo entertainment stuff. So like there was like 3 different revenue streams, and I was getting a promotional thing from Birdie. So when I entered the DJ scene, I was sort of in the right place at the right time. Like I was just turning 18. All my friends were turning 18. All my brother's friends were turning 21. So I was just sucking in people to everywhere that I went, and it kind of put me on the map, I suppose. And so I was getting offers to promote this place and do that and do this, and it all kind of came together. And at one point, I was making like $2,000 a week just for DJing stuff and the entertainment stuff. But you do get over it.
Yeah.
The problem with DJing, I love DJing. I love music, and I always have, and I always will. And I've played piano for over 10 years, and I love music. Yeah. But if you do it too often, you really start resenting it, and you're like, oh, it's 2 a.m. What am I doing here?
Well, actually, I am a musician myself. So and I started quite young, and learn the guitar and was going to be a rock star and all that type of thing. But yeah, just to play a gig like in a rock band is such a pain. Like you got like all your set up all the equipment, and it just takes forever to set up and pack down, and then you need a sound guy and a light guy and or girl. We should be politically correct here, right? But probably DJing is probably a better business decision than being in a band in that respect, because the logistics of a band are just horrible. Yeah,
well, it's definitely easier as a DJ to come because most venues have the equipment already set up, so you just plug in. You don't have to carry around stuff.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, you just got to be good.
Yeah.
And once it obviously takes a while to get good, but the good thing is that once you're in and you've built the relationships and you've proven yourself, it's not that hard to get more gigs.
Sure.
You just got to be reliable and not suck. It's literally that easy, but I see DJs get it wrong all the time.
Right.
Without going down that rabbit hole.
Yep.
They just it's the same in business, right? You have to build a product for a market, not try to force your product into a market.
Okay.
And so when you've got DJs that want to play dubstep at 9 p.m. and they're trying to force it and they go, oh, no one will book me. Like, they don't appreciate my you're not playing the right stuff. And the same for business. Like you have to read the crowd, read the market, read the room.
I don't want to stereotype it. I did find musicians, a lot of musicians, and I don't know if you'd class DJs in the same sort of segment, but had notoriously bad business skills, I found.
DJs?
No, musicians.
Oh,
really.
right. Yeah, no, I think they all do.
Yeah, so
DJs included.
But that's the thing, and it's very interesting to then later on build a business and look at it from the other perspective and say, well, yeah, all that time I was just trying to force my music on people and they don't care,
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was because you become a musician because you love music. You don't love marketing and finance and sales and accounting and all that. And it's the same with any business. Like when people say, it's the classic like story of if you bake really good muffins, I guess, oh, you should start a business and bake muffins, and now you bake muffins, but now you're not just baking muffins. Now you're wearing all the hats and you end up just hating muffins because you're like, anything to do with this business makes me frustrated. And so I think that's where musicians kind of go wrong, is they don't treat it like a business. They treat it as music, which is good in the sense that they should be consumed by their passion for music, and that's great. But if they're not going to do it, they at least need someone like a manager or someone to sort it out, because I probably 9 out of 10 DJs I know don't pay tax.
Right.
Just because no one told them to do it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, I just didn't have to do it. It's like, it's not like a festival where you sneak in the door and then you're good. It's like up to 7 years you can get audited and you're going to have to owe a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's just them being lazy or not knowing that it's required, or it's interesting. I mean, you've got really talented people, but they're only talented in this one area, and they're not even... I don't know if they're lazy or that. I don't know. It's what it is, but I see what you mean.
Yeah. Going back to that 100K point for a second, I'm just interested, did you set out to do that, or is that something that sort of happened?
Completely by accident.
Really?
Completely by accident.
You're the first person to ever accidentally say 100K, I think.
Yeah, so I remember when it got to about 10,000.
Yeah.
Or even like 6,000 or 7,000, because I'd been saving for a while, and it was the most I'd ever had. I was like, oh, this feels nice to have like 5 figures, and then you get more, and then you get 20,000. Like, oh, I'd love to see it to get 30, and you get addicted to saving.
Yeah.
And so every time you spend money, it's going down. Like, so every time you get paid, it's the most you've ever had, and it's really exciting to be like, oh, let's see how far this thing can go. And I was just saving for a rainy day. Like, I didn't have anything. At some point, I was like, maybe I should buy some stuff. But I thought, you know what, I'll just save it for when I need it. And it was the best thing I ever did, because it gave me the opportunity to start a new business and waste most of the money. Right. But at least it gave me that opportunity to create something, because most people have an idea, and probably the number one thing is that they don't have the money. And they just kind of give up or something, which they shouldn't. But having money is obviously a good thing, and it allows you to do cool stuff like that. Yeah.
So is this when you started AroundAbout?
Yes.
Is this what you...
Yep. So I was going to buy a house. I bought a bunch of shares, and I had probably about 70,000 in a share portfolio, which was making more money. So it was just kind of adding to the total. Sold all them, was about to buy a house, and then did the polar opposite and started the tech company.
Right.
I just figured, look, if I buy this house, I'm going to have to... And at that point, I was DJing so much, and I was just like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Plus, once you get to like 30, kind of... You're that guy. No offense to the DJs out there. But, I was like, if I buy this house, I'm going to have to pay it off for years, like decades, doing something I'm not that passionate about. Like, I don't want to ever say that I'm not passionate about DJing. It's just not my legacy. I don't want to, that's not who I am. I want to be in business. And even ever since I started my first business, I've always treated DJing like a business. Like I'd always go to the extra effort to meet the managers and do the counts correctly. And like I'd always put in a little bit more effort to treat it like a business because you should. So then I started the tech company and said, I want to do something big. To be honest, at that point, I was just so motivated because I'd read books from Richard Branson and Elon Musk and Jobs and, you know, all these people. And I was like, I don't even care what it is. I just want to do something.
Yeah.
And so I did something.
Right.
And then here we are.
Yeah. So you tell us how you started spending that money towards in the business, because that'd be really interesting to hear that sort of first maybe 6 months.
Yeah. Well, what I did and what you should do is two very different conversations.
Break it down for us.
So I had several app ideas and business ideas, and then I said I was talking about each of one of them to one of my really good friends who I was working for at Hot Gossip, and he said he had another idea, and he goes, "Oh, your ideas aren't that good. We should do this instead." And I was like, "That's fair enough." And then so he had this idea, so I was like, "Oh, why don't we do that?" But he didn't have the time, so we kind of went back and forth, and then I kind of rolled with that. And I just talked to developers and said, how do we make this happen? Which is what everybody does. They have an idea, they think, cool, how do we do this? How much does it cost? And then all of a sudden you're locked into a development contract and you've made something that you didn't give enough thought to.
Yep.
So I spent probably the first thing the big thing I spent money on was development. So making it on iOS.
Yep.
What you should do is spend $500 to $1,000 on validating it. So just making a basic prototype, even just paying a designer for a basic thing and validating the shit out of it and talking to as many customers as you can and just getting as much feedback as you can, because then you have the data to know if this is an idea worth pursuing. Yep. And I'll probably touch on that again later. But the biggest problem people have is they pursue ideas that don't make sense. And I was talking about this today with Alex Muscat, actually. I'm not sure if you know him. He owned House of Supplements. He's a great guy. But we were talking about this, and then they say, oh, these people are so motivated and you've got to have drive and just keep going and you'll make it and like, don't give up. And I think that's very true for life. I don't think that's true for every idea that you have, because you will go down a rabbit hole that is way too expensive, and you'll make something that shouldn't be made, except when someone says that's a bad idea, you'll be like, nah, just, keep going, and who cares what they say, and like, don't worry about the haters. But
if everyone's a hater, then
sometimes we're not hating. We're just saying we don't hate it. We just think it's bad. It doesn't make sense as a business, and it's like subjective hearing. You'll hear what you want to hear. Yep. You'll have 100 people to say it's bad, and one person say go for it, and you'll go for it because you're waiting for that one thing. So that was another tangent. Sorry about that. The development stuff, maybe some legal stuff, and a lot of the stuff I did myself. Like I figured out how to make my own websites. I figured out how to do a lot of the stuff. So development was the biggest one. Right.
And so you touched on what went wrong and what went right about it. So how long did it take you to go, look, something's not working here? Did you hold on to the idea for longer than you'd like to admit? Or did you?
Yeah, well, it's sort of, when we made it, the one of the biggest mistakes I made was doing Android.
Right, yep.
Not that it's not good. I mean, obviously it offers some benefit, but not at the cost of what it costs to make. So like when I was working with a development company who, knowing what I know now, I feel like suing them.
Right, yeah.
Because like way too overpriced. But I didn't know. I'm a 20-year-old kid with, some money. Like I thought, let's just go for it. But the thing is, if you talk to a developer, they're going to say, develop it. If you talk to a doctor, they're going to say, take this medicine. If you talk to a lawyer, they're going to say, get this contract. Like you can't really blame them for saying, it's not like if you had a client, you're going to say, hey, go back and do this and you'll save yourself half the fee. Because that's just kind of counterproductive to their own business. So I understand, but at the same time, I got told what to do by quote unquote experts that would just have their hand in my pocket the whole time. And that's the harshest thing I've learned in business is when you start and you think, I don't know what to do, I'm going to listen to the professionals, but they're not professionals. Well, they are, but they have their hand in your pocket. That's why mentors, it's exactly why I started The Exceptions, which is the business community to help people avoid stuff like that. It's mostly just full of stuff not to do that I've done.
Yeah, cool. Yep.
And so if I knew what I knew now, 18 months ago, it'd be a very different story. But at the same time, like that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like it's only because I've been through that I know what to do now.
Yeah.
And it's only because I've done that I know what to do next time and how to teach other people to do it. And I've gained 5 times what I've spent in knowledge and experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think everyone has to go through a bit of that at first. It's, like I don't know if you can take a course to prepare you,
it doesn't exist.
Dealing with, people and that, everyone's can potentially have their own agenda.
And I was talking about this as well. It's like I can say, hey, don't develop it yet. Make a prototype first. And you'll be like, yeah. But if someone else says, oh, just go for it, like, you know, you won't understand the impact of what I'm saying until you go through it yourself.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in a relationship and you go, oh, just break up with them. Like, that doesn't make sense. But like when you're doing it, it's a very different, you know, you're right in the thick of it. So like a lot of my business metaphors go to relationships. I don't know why.
Yeah, I love that too. Like dating is just there's so many metaphors with dating. I find.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now I can't think of any right at the moment.
I've got one going on. Actually, what we just said before, I've got many, but this is one of them. So when I was saying that pursuing an idea that you shouldn't be doing, it's like if you're in a relationship that's bad for the moment, but you know that it can be good, it's worth putting in the time and effort to fix it. But if you're in a relationship that makes no sense and the other person is crazy and you're just wasting your time, why would you keep going? Like, there's no point. You're just prolonging the pain. And it's the same in a business. Like, if you don't walk away from something you should walk away from, now you've just got 2 more years and like thousands more dollars. It's sunk costs. So people invest more in things that are already losing rather than starting something new because they think they've already come this far. Yeah. And that was a thing that one of my mentors once told me, which I now understand.
Yeah, gotcha. Sometimes you have to go through the pain.
Exactly.
But so where's the... so you decided the app wasn't working the way it was. Yep. What did you do then?
So the interesting thing was that we started as like Tinder for food.
Right, yep.
So we were all swiping. That was all you could do. And it got us a lot of attention because Tinder for food it's simple. People get it. Sounds fun.
Yep.
People have thought of it before. Like, I don't want to swipe for that creepy dude with a Commodore when I could just, you know, swipe for food. Like, it makes sense.
Yep.
But eventually, for the people that like it, it gets repetitive and you can't really add that much value to the user. Okay. Like, if you literally want someone to eat, it's great if it's the first or second time you've used it. But if you want to keep using it, it's limiting. So we completely changed the layout. Now it's much cleaner. It's got like categories, so you can pick date night or sweet treats or like cheap eats or vegetarian or something, and it's right there and it's super curated and it presents really good. It's like a really sexy version of Zomato. Meets the urban list without all the clunk. Like we don't have everywhere. We don't have every Chinese shop in Brisbane. We've just got the best. And so that's where the value offering comes in. It's like we have the best stuff. So every single place on here should be amazing unless they get it really wrong. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on whether a company like that and that company needs in-house tech versus, as you said, using...
For my one?
Just in general, perhaps, versus using a development company or a third party to get your idea off the ground.
Well, to get it off the ground, it's kind of hard to get someone as a tech co-founder to commit to it. If you can, great. I think that it really depends on the amount of updates you're making. So when you hire an in-house team, you have to keep paying them whether you're working or not. Yeah, and then you might just end up trying to give them stuff to do so you don't feel like you're wasting your money. Yep. But if you've only got a couple changes to make, so we'd go months without changing anything. So it'd be like you'd do a little bit and then you do a little bit here and then change a little bit of that. And that's when it's good to do contract work. If you still want to find a good developer though. So you want to try and do development work with the same person. Yep. Because I've changed twice. Okay. So I've gone with 3 different people, and every single one said, "Oh, we've got to change all the code that the last guy made." And to the newest guy, I said, "I bet you $100 if we go to a new one, they're going to say the exact same thing." And he said, "Probably." Yep. But it's the same. It's like painters paint with different brushes, and they code differently, and there's different ways they organize the files, and even if it's the same language, like even if it's all on Java. Yep. They still do it differently. Yeah. And it's like, imagine you trying to do your work on someone else's computer. You're like, where is everything? Why is that here? Yeah. Oh, see, so that's exactly where the problem comes in. So to go back to your question, I think if you can find a tech co-founder to do all of the tech work or an in-house team, depending on how much work you're doing. So if it's an ongoing thing, you just got to weigh up the costs really. So like, look, if I hire someone for $20 an hour, and that we're going to do this much hours of work and then add on more because it's going to cost more than you think. Yeah. Is that, and then compare that to the cost of a contract. Yeah. You just weigh it up.
I think the fear is with using a third party is that if you do that, then and you need something changed later on, it's just they're going to keep slugging you every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's absolutely what happened with the first one. So I wanted to add 3 pretty basic features in, and they charged me they quoted me something ridiculous. And I was like, I'm out. there's nothing you can say
Yeah.
to change. They go, no, it's good. I was like, no, seriously, tell me what needs to happen to get me out because I now hate you guys.
Yeah.
So I went to the new guys and you just want someone that's transparent and honest, and it's really hard to find that. I mean, even these, probably 80% of these quote unquote Australian companies say that they're Australian. They're all outsourced because it's just too expensive to do it here.
Yeah.
And so it just is so much. It's so ironic because startups are all about creating cool things and being honest and all working together, but like most of them are just outsourcing to companies in India or Philippines or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with hiring people from those countries. Yeah, they're great. Most of them are better educated than we are. Problem is that you'll think that you're going with this great Australian company and that justifies the higher price and that you can get local work, but it's not. Yeah. So the only way to do that is like to sit in the office with someone that's doing the work.
Right. Interesting. So you're not that old now. Can we ask how old you are now?
I turned 22 on Saturday, actually.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday for Saturday.
Thank you.
What about any uncommon advice that you might have for the listeners? Because, you've been in business sort of 4 to 6 years now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't even know. I suppose, 4, 5. Oh, yeah, geez, 6.
4 to 5, yeah. 6. Let's go with 6.
That went quickly.
Yeah. What would you say that... have you come up with something that you think should be said more that you just never hear?
Probably got heaps of stuff. I suppose just quickly on the app stuff.
Yep.
Like there's so much work you can do before you talk to a developer. And that's the biggest thing that people don't do. And the ideas worth pursuing thing that I mentioned is huge. Like a lot of people don't talk about that. And a lot of people don't talk about cutting something off when it needs to be cut off. Like there's the fun social network movie style of entrepreneurship, which is just do it and make this cool thing and make billions of dollars. Yeah. And then there's like the real shit, which is like you have no money, you've just been absolutely rotted by a company. Like there's so much that happens that you don't plan for, which because it's impossible to plan for. Like you can't. Things happen that you can never think are going to happen. I suppose like I don't want to dampen anybody's fire, but like business is way harder than you think it is. Yeah. And there's so much that you're going to have to do that you won't want to do. And there will be times, no matter how motivated you are, where you're just like, I don't think I can keep going. And those are the times that make you stronger. And they're the times that like, so there is, I suppose I want to say the reality of it while still motivating people. Like it's kind of like, it's not nearly as easy as you think. It's harder than you think. It's going to take longer than you think. It's going to cost more than you think. And it's going to be worse than you think, but it's worth it. Yeah. Yeah. So instead of just being like, you can do it. You're amazing. Keep pushing. It
is a fine balance with what message to send out there, because I think some of the statistics you see, like the 9 out of 10 startups fail and that type of thing, I question whether that's worth sharing. Even if it's true. I mean, if we're going to build a startup culture, we need people starting. So, whether like even though that statistic might be accurate, do you need to add more context to that? Like, but the people who do give it a go usually succeed on their 3rd or 4th attempt. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, the first one's the hardest. It's always going to be the hardest. And I feel like we should say you will fail. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that people can't overcome is the fear of failure, because I'd be interested to see out of those 9 or 10 that fail, how many didn't try again. Yeah. And so, like for me, if I fail 10 times, I'll keep going. Like I don't think you should ever give up on your dream, but you should move on from particular projects that aren't going the way that you want them to. If that makes sense.
You got to iterate.
Yeah. So
or dump things altogether.
Exactly. It's sunk cost is just such a big. There's 2 things. My mentor once said. The 2 most expensive things are missed opportunity cost. Yep. Meaning like whilst you're doing this, you're not doing something else. Yep. Which is, you don't want to think that, you don't want to be paranoid all the time. Yeah. And the second thing is sunk cost. So like, keep investing in things that aren't working just to save your own ego. And it's hard, I get it. And it takes self-awareness is another huge thing. So Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about that. Yeah. Yep. It's like if he could inject one thing into people, it'd be self-awareness. Yep. And it takes a lot of courage to have built something that I've spent time and money and resources on, and for you to be like, this didn't work. Yeah. Yeah. And for you to say, I think it's I respect people that can do that and keep going. Some people be like, oh, what if people think this? Like, who cared? No one cared. Like, you just got to not give a shit about what anybody thinks. You got to do stuff for you, not for anybody else. Yeah. And so if you know that it's time, just walk away. Yeah. There's something else I had at the start of this and I've lost it. Yeah, never mind. It'll come back to me.
No worries. I want to drill down the self-awareness point anyway. Yep. Do you feel that's something you always had, or like, I mean, I think the good thing about business is you just have to develop it. You have to call a spade a spade. If something's not working, I mean, it does cost you money. Yeah. And like other areas of life, you can kind of trick yourself a bit, I suppose, and go, oh, no, it's going fine. But with business, if you're losing money, there's that hard variable that's just going the wrong way.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of like vendors and customers and partners that don't know or care who you are. So they'll straight up shut you down. Like your friends and family will, say it's fine and keep going. And, when you're like, look at the difference between when you say, I've got this huge problem to your friend or family, and they're like, oh, it's fine. And when you say it to a customer, the customer does not care. It's not their problem. It shouldn't be their problem. It's your problem and yours alone. Yeah. And for you to just wait for someone to be like, no, it's cool, or help you out, like you're forced into that situation of being like, I'm fucked. Yeah. Sorry about the language. But those moments are where you really start to be honest with yourself. Yep. Because no matter how much you try to tell yourself things, there's no money in your bank account. Or there's the problem's not going away. Yep. No matter what you say to yourself. That's why I don't think that what is the book called The Secret, where like if you just imagine something hard enough, it'll happen.
I know the book. I haven't read it. But
no, I haven't read it either.
Okay. Is that what it is?
I think it's all about like, if you just envision yourself doing this stuff, it'll happen. Okay. But if you pray and pray and pray, there's not a magical $100 note coming into the letterbox. Yeah. So it's just about, it just gets rid of the fluff, really. Like you can be motivated to start a business, and you can hear all these things, and you can watch these movies, and then the real life business will really carve out what it really is like, and you're forced into that self-awareness, and it's one of the best things you can ever have. And it translates into the things you learn in business can translate into relationships and translate into philosophical parts of your life. Like self-awareness is huge, and it helps you keep it real with yourself, which helps you keep it real with your customers. So you're not trying to be this person that you're not. Yeah. That's like me. Like I help people a lot with their businesses, but I've never ever once said that I'm successful or a millionaire. It's like, I'm just like you. I'm sharing stuff that I learn, and I'm doing it with you. I'm not this guru that's trying to like, be this self-help genius that's like going to tell you how to achieve your dreams. Like, no, I'm just a guy who's done it. It was hard. Yeah. I want to help you avoid that. Yeah. And like, I also want to experience it with you. That's why when we do these business events, like I like following up and seeing how the people are going so we can do it together. I'll even sit down and work with them sometimes because I like to surround myself with other people that want it. Right. And there's another thing with self-awareness. If you're self-aware enough to know that you don't need to be around the people you're around, or if you're hanging around with the wrong people or the cool people, or you're trying so hard to just like go clubbing and fit in and all this kind of stuff. Like if you know who you are, you know who you need. And so you can hang out with mentors and people that are like you and people that want the same thing as you. Because if you're not self-aware, you're going to be like, oh, what if people forget about me? Or what if people don't think I'm cool? Like, who cares? At the end of the day, it literally does not matter.
Yeah, I find when you do develop it, it sort of starts to take the sting out of things. Like you're like, I'm not good at that, and that's okay. Whereas back in the day, it's like, oh no, I am good at it. I promise. Still, real life. Stop telling me I'm not good at that. No, I don't believe you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's times when something really bad will happen. You're like, oh, damn it. Whereas usually you crumble and like, what am I going to do? What are people going to think? What am I going to tell this person? And I've had times where something real bad has happened, and I'm just like, shit. Yeah. Well, on to the next one. We got to keep moving.
Yeah. It takes the takes the sting out of it. But I'll also then find the challenge for me anyways, it sometimes limits the upside for me. So I don't think I have as big a highs now because I've just blunted that emotional response so much to when things go wrong.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think it's a good problem to have because that just means your standards are really high. Yeah. And that means that, the same with this is why the circle of your friends is so important. So they say that if you hang around with 5 millionaires, you'll become a millionaire. You'll be the 6th millionaire. If you hang around with 5 idiots, you'll become the 6th idiot. If I wanted to, I'm not an achiever, but like I've done more than a regular DJ. So if I hang around with DJs that haven't done anything or they're just starting, I'll make myself feel really good or whatever, and you can feel good about yourself. But I would much rather hang around with people that are killing it way above me, which I always have since I just started in business. And it's made me feel like I need to catch up. So you don't celebrate the wins as much, but I think it's for the greater good so that you're working towards the ultimate win as opposed to the little wins. Does that make sense? So like your core dream.
Yeah. What is that for you?
I have a few. There's obviously, I want to do whatever I want as much as I want with whoever I want, whenever I want.
Yeah.
Like I want.
Not asking for much.
I want complete freedom. I want to just if I see a cool movie that was in Vegas, I call up my friend and say, let's go to Vegas. I'll go this. Or like if I want to help something, I can do it. I also really want to set up animal shelters around the world.
Oh, nice.
Which is expensive.
Yeah.
But like there's stray animals in like Indonesia and Thailand everywhere. And I love animals. I would love to help all them. Love to help all my family. Just shout them everything. Like for everything they've ever done for me, just be like, here's that, here's this.
Yeah.
And just that's the ultimate goal for me. So when you've hit that goal, that's when you're like, that's it for me. Whereas if you hit like you get a new client or you get a new this, or like it's little ones. Like it's good to. I actually read a book recently and it was saying that you need to celebrate yourself sometimes, because I'll be like, I'll talk to my girlfriend and I'm stressed or something. And I'm like, oh, this is happening. She's like, just chill out. Like you've done so much in this amount of time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as long as you don't completely ignore the positive feelings. Like it's okay to keep achieving more than what you know.
Mm-hmm. I got 4 new clients this week, but I lost one.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah, and I was talking to Joe Fox from Studio Culture, and he was saying that he'll be always going up and up and up and up, but whenever he plateaus, even though it's way higher than when he was before, he'll be like, oh, he feels frustrated and he feels unenergetic, and you kind of forget how far you've come, and it kind of flattens it out. So it's just a balance of like, it's good to keep pushing, but sometimes you just need to chill out.
Yeah. I almost feel like I was addicted to that achievement and those highs for a while. And what I'm doing actually is I'm going just for a couple of weeks soon away, and I'm going to turn off the internet, the phone, literally everything, and just see how I do. And I don't know if I'll do any good.
I think it's I've heard the first 2 or 3 days are the worst, and then it becomes easy. Honestly, I don't know if I could do it at this point. Like, one day I'll do it, but I gotta get the courage.
I'm at the stage where I'm like, you got to do it. Just go and try it. Just see what it's like to forget about all that stuff for a while, and just be human, just for a little while.
Yeah.
Just
where are you going?
Not far away, just into the mountains somewhere, just a cabin.
You have to blog about it when you come back.
Well, I didn't want to do it because I was like, I have to go overseas, and I hate planes and all that. And then I was like, well, no, you don't have to do that. You can just go, a little while away, and just so long as it's isolated for me was the main thing, and away from tech. So I'll see how that happens, how that goes. But I really found that point interesting about beating yourself up despite your wins. Yeah. It's just such an interesting point.
Yeah.
But moving on to the new company you've got, Mastered Marketing. So you've done, you're working on AroundAbout still, but you've got Mastered Marketing now. What have you learned from that?
It's interesting because the marketing is great, and I can offer a lot of value to people for a great affordable price.
Yep.
And it creates cash flow, and it's not. I mean, I like doing it in terms of like workload. Like it's definitely manageable, and so you're like, I'm making money from day one with this.
Yep.
And I've spent 16 months on a startup that is yet to make money, and it's just creating way less effort. Like you just see, logically, you think ditch that and do this, but the thing is, as much as I love marketing, this company is not like a legacy project. It's not like I love marketing, but I love startups even more. And I'd love to change the world with technology and innovation. Like that's the goal, is to make awesome stuff that literally changes the world. Small business marketing is great. It's not going to change the world.
Yeah.
Well, unless you do something crazy innovative. But like I'm kind of going back and forth in my head. I'm like, this is making me much more money.
Yeah.
But do I like it more than the other thing? So I think I'll try and do a bit of both. I definitely want to do a new startup. I've got a couple ideas that I want to do. And now I've got a team. So I've got an investor. I've got an engineering guy. I've got a finance guy. Like it's all there ready to go, which is the biggest thing that I got from doing the first startup. The other thing is the system of operations. So like systemizing everything.
Yep.
So that might be your customer acquisition funnel. So like they come onto the website here, they send a thing here. Then once they've got that, then you send this email in a template, and then you send that. And then once you do that, you can do this. And when you're creating a website, you create like a process to do like this, so that eventually you can palm that off to somebody else.
Yep.
So there's a book called Built to Sell by John Warrillow, however you pronounce it.
Yeah,
great
book.
Show
notes. Yep.
Yeah. So kind of like the E-Myth, similar book. Yep. Really good about how to make it bigger than yourself. So as much as you want to add as much value as you can as an individual, it's hard to scale that. So you want to create a business that can thrive without you. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned that I should have done at the start of the startup, even though startups they're changing all the time. But yeah, that was a big thing.
It's good you mentioned that, because I think it is important at times to go meta. So even though you've tried, if someone builds a company and it doesn't all work out, you should have learned 4 or 5 things from that you could then potentially sell one of those. You might have found something through that process that you actually enjoy doing that you could then just
well, that
sell
was the marketing. So like AroundAbout's marketing is pretty good. I mean, we create really good content. We put out good. We got a big social media following. We work with influencers. Like, that's fun. I like doing that. I can do that all day.
Yep.
There's obviously the legal and accounting and stuff, but that's the less fun parts of the business unless you're a numbers guy.
Yep.
But the biggest thing would be, it's interesting because startups are quite different to small businesses.
Yep.
So startups, there's so much uncertainty. There's so much you don't know what you need to make. You need to talk to the customers. You need to create your product and change it. Websites and social media, it's kind of like you kind of know what you're doing. You just have to be good at it. So it's whilst I've learned a lot, I suppose the lessons that I've learned from the startup would be more relevant to a new startup, like building a prototype. You don't need to build a prototype to set up a web development company.
Right.
But I would absolutely do that for the next startup. So yeah, they're the same and different at the same time. But operations is huge.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts around planning? Like, if you have a startup, should you plan at all, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think it all comes down to success metrics. So knowing like what metric means you're doing well. So you can have vanity metrics, and people, if you work for a marketing company in a big corporation, you can make anything sound good. It's like, oh, we got this many views on a billboard from this amount of traffic, or we had this many hits on our website, and you can make it all sound good, but it doesn't. There's a really good quote that's like, if you set out to see what happens, you'll succeed at seeing what happens. That's not useful. Yeah. So that's if it's an app, you might say we tracking downloads. Like, yes, we want to get web traffic and followers and stuff, but like, is that number low or high? Because that needs to be at least, like, let's say it's 100 a week or something, or you need to get this many of that. And if it's low, then what's wrong? And if it's high, then that's good. What's working? And keep doing more of that. And so I think it's just about having success metrics of being like, what defines success? Is it partnerships? Is it revenue? Is it downloads? Is it, traffic? Whatever that is, and knowing what that is. And then everything you change can be based around that. So like in Silicon Valley, they have like, they'll pick something like, we have to grow at 5% every single week. Yeah. So everything that they choose to do, whether it's change the website or change the offering or change the product, you can always ask yourself, does this get me to 5% growth? And if not, don't do it. And if it does, then do it. That makes sense? It makes the decision-making way easier, but it still leaves the whole process very flexible. So like you can change the product and you can change this as long as it's all working towards that one goal, which is whatever that is. So
your plan in that case might be just 3 success metrics per week, and that's about as
deep or even if it's like revenue is an easy one, right? So like we need to make $5,000 a month. And if we're making 2, something's going wrong. And if we're making 7, what are we doing? Let's do more of that. So it's just a matter of knowing what success is, and not just being like, just taking whatever you can get and combining them is useless. Like, we got this and we got that and we got this. But like, what matters? Why did you start a business? Was it to make money? Was it to help charity? Like, if it's a non-for-profit, how much reach are you getting? How many people are you helping? How many donations are you getting? Like, whatever it is. Because if you start out a business, like a marketing company, to make money from marketing, and you've got social media followers but no revenue, it's like, if you're using that as the success, like that doesn't make any sense. And that's useless in the sense of the success metric. It's not useless at all. Like, it's good to have, but you got to know why you're in business. That was a very long answer to that question. Sorry about that.
So good. So, did you ask yourself why before you started your businesses? Because if you did with your first two, I'm very jealous, because I certainly didn't. I just got going and just hoped for something would work right.
Well, the first one, I was just so motivated I wanted to do anything. So that's when motivation can be a bad thing, especially if you've got money and no experience. Well, little experience in what I was doing. So I'd done a business, but very small business. It wasn't a startup, wasn't an app. I didn't know anything about coding.
You didn't go to uni though, did you?
No, I did one term. And I hated it. Passionately.
Good call.
I had a 1,000-word assignment that was how I liked working in a group, and I was like, I'm out.
So you do kind of come out on top in that regard, because a lot of people, me included, come out with, a 40K HEX debt. So that money that you did spend, like, I mean, I would have preferred to spend that 40K in hindsight now on making mistakes in a business than I would have on a degree I don't want.
Yeah, exactly. And without going on a university rant, I think, look, if you're at uni and you know why you're there, go for it. If you know why you're there. But most people, probably 90% of people, haven't got the self-awareness to know why they made that decision. Most people go because their parents told them to go, or they didn't feel like getting a job yet, or they felt like, it was something to do. I don't think what they understand is that they're getting a big debt.
Yeah.
They're getting 2 years of no work. They're getting, it's not whether...
4 in some cases.
Yeah, it's not whether it's enjoyable, it's whether it's worth that cost.
Yeah.
There's a book called The Personal MBA, which talks a lot about that.
Right.
But that's, I think if you don't go to uni and you don't do anything, you're just as bad.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be doing something.
Of course.
If you want to do business and you want to be an entrepreneur, I would recommend not to go to uni, because you will learn 10 times more with a quarter of the amount of money in the real world. Yeah, in the first couple of months. Yeah.
No, it's. I try not to bash formal education too much on the show, because I could do it every time, and I've just got to.
All entrepreneurs.
I've got to rein it in. But is there any common business advice that you now would reject? Like, the things you hear all the time and you just think to yourself, no.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And I suppose going back again is like the persistence thing. Is like, know when to stop. Yeah. Don't just think that that's going to make you succeed.
So would you say that's the common message, is just keep going? Like...
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to be the guy that says don't do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you never see Tony Robbins like, yeah, you know what? But nah.
Yeah.
And so I just think that people, I think they're saying it subconsciously is like, it's keep going with your dream, not keep going with that thing. Like, it's okay to cut that thing off. I think, a lot of marketing stuff, like people get marketing wrong a lot.
Yeah, tell us about that.
I think people, it's even just little things, like people thinking that Facebook's a waste of money, or like people thinking that it's just too hard, or like they don't need it. That's huge. If you think you don't need marketing, it's like the second most important thing of your business after making a good product. Like you need it. You have to tell your story. It's not customers aren't just going to walk in the door. Actually, yes, there's a huge thing. There's a book called Nail It Then Scale It.
Yep.
Terrific book. It's like the Lean Startup, a bit more practical. Yep. And so they talk about it. You don't have an idea, make it, try sell it. You need to have an idea, validate it, and go through a different process to making it. So most people, like, they kind of say, yeah, if you want to start a business, just think of the business plan, just make it, and then start putting it out. What you should do is talk to customers first, and it'll make all the difference in your business. And I think that's a big thing when you're talking about the strategy and like the process. Is they just skip that bit of like talking to customers. Yeah.
I certainly did it with my first business.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's just lucky that people like the app, because I may have come out with a really expensive piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, how do you go about talking to customers? Like, did that come... Would you consider yourself extroverted and you were okay with just going out and finding these people? Because a lot of people don't talk to strangers. It's kind of odd to be... It's not a normal accepted thing to do, to go up and just talk to someone and ask them what they think of your idea.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to knowing who the customer is. So, like, if you're making something that is worth it to the customer, they will be happy to talk to you. So, like, if you somehow make wireless DJing, I'm happy to talk to you. Right, I hate chords. It's like spaghetti in the booth. Like, if you make that for me and I'm a DJ, I'm happy to talk to you about that. And you've also got to remember that you're not selling anything. You're asking and you're listening. So you don't want to come and be like, buy. No one likes to be sold to. Yep. People like to give their opinion. People like to feel like they're valued. And if you say, hey, you're a DJ, I'd love to hear what you think about this. Or like, what if this was a thing? Like, would that be useful to you? And then you're adding value to the situation whilst also listening to what they have to say, which is much better than being approached by someone. Like on the street when you get hit up for like buying a magazine or like donating or something. Like, it's annoying. You're interrupted for someone to sell you something. Yep. But if you're a friendly guy and you're in a space full of your target customers, another reason you hate getting hit up on the street is because you're not their customer. But if you're in like somewhere where your customers are, like if you want to do a co-working a product for co-workers, and you're in a co-working space, they're happy to talk to you because they are co-workers. If you're trying to talk to a builder about it, he might be like, get off my side.
What about a consumer product though? So you guys are like AroundAbout app is more of your consumer app. So I'm picturing when you said all that, you walking into restaurants and stuff and interrupting people while they eat and then going, hey, would you use this? Like, how would you approach it if it's not, how would you approach that?
Like if it's not so niche.
Yeah, if it's more on a mass scale.
Well, even though it might be a mass scale thing, you still know what your customer likes. So that's another thing that people skip over is like, who is your customer? Like making a user persona don't mean to be a buzzword, just like outlining how old are they? What are they like? Blah, 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 blah. And then you can kind of find where those people will be. So like, yes, if you want to find food, it's very broad. But if you like, I want to find 18 to 25-year-olds that really like cheap food, you can go to those places. And if you walk into a cheap place, most of those people will be keen to talk to you. And yeah, you're going to get some people that don't want to, and you're going to get some people that you can't know. You don't have X-ray vision or something to find out if they're good in advance. But yeah, you do have to overcome that fear of talking to strangers. And but if you're in a bar or you're just buying or you're just sitting at the bar, every time someone comes up to the bar, be like, "Hey, what are you drinking?" or something, or like ask them little questions and icebreakers and stuff. Because again, people like as much as weird as it is to talk to a stranger. If it's a good conversation, most people don't mind. Like if you've been hit up by like someone funny, like I've been hit up by people on the street that are hilarious, or like magicians or something. Like it's entertaining. It's not so bad. It's just the icebreaker that's tough. So you got to figure out some good icebreakers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of not part of the challenge. That's so much of the challenge because you can do all this other stuff behind closed doors, but the people stuff. You have to do in front of people, and that's when I had to develop my social skills at one point, and it was. And I'll compare that to learning to sing. I could suck for 2 years learning to sing, and I could just do it behind closed doors, and no one would know, and they didn't because I wouldn't let them know. But then you're like, my social skills, I really need to improve them for business purposes. You have to fail in front of a person every single time. You sound terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're boring.
And I don't know. I work in entertainment, so like I've always been around other people, and I worked in retail, so I'd always be talking to customers, and so I kind of picked it up throughout that. So for me to give advice for someone that's never done it, maybe a bit harder because I kind of grew up with it. And I was hosting a nightclub, so you get pretty good at talking to people. It's hard if you're like, you obviously have to know the context. Like if someone's eating, having a conversation, you don't just barge in and be like, "Oi." But yeah, it's just that's actually a really good question, and I'm not sure exactly the best way to go about it. Just do it, just try it, because the first 5 you'll probably get wrong and embarrass yourself, but you'll know what not to do next time. It's the same as everything; it's trial and error. If you go up to someone, you're like, "Hey," and just look at them for too long, and it's just awkward. Next time you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna just get into it really quick," or then if you go, "Hey, I do this now. Well, what do you think about that?" You'll just understand the social dynamics and like how to actually adapt. Yeah.
So you've built this community too, the exceptions. How important is it to entrepreneurs and those small business owners to be part of communities?
I think it's huge to be around other people like you. That doesn't necessarily have to be a community. It doesn't have to be a co-working space. You just need to talk to people. Whether it's getting advice or just venting, because like, I mean, I'll have conversations. I just had a coffee this morning with Alex, and it was we no agenda, I wasn't asking any particular questions, but just being around and talking, it gets ideas flowing. That's why they said, like some of the best ideas come out of coffee shops, because you're just chatting and you're just brainstorming and you're bouncing ideas off people. And if you're just by yourself, you're talking to yourself, and you'll also self-awareness again, and you might start doubting yourself, or you might think something's a terrible idea when it's actually great, and you might think a great idea is good when it's actually horrendous. Most of the time it's the latter. But so it's just good to be around other people for advice, for general, and like I said about the sixth man thing, like just being around other people that are like you, instead of trying to be around the people you think you should be around, or like that are cool, or like... Or even friends that you've had for years that are dragging you down. You need to be very self-aware to be like, I need to stop hanging out with this person.
It's hard. They're hard decisions to make sometimes. Though. Like, I mean,
absolutely.
If you've hung around with someone for a long time, or they've been a friend for a long time.
Or even if it's your parents and they're saying you're never going to do this, you should do this, you have to be that, and then for you to just be like, look, I appreciate everything you've done, but like I'm going to do this, and if you respect me, you'll let me do it.
Yeah, I think we're moving into an age too where it's almost getting more risky not to be doing entrepreneurial type stuff. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, but if you are working, if you're not upskilling and, poking the box, as Seth Godin would say, we're going to start moving quickly. There's going to be a lot of skills. Like I started the podcast, like it's great. It's going to be like a meta skill I've learned to do just from, and I don't know if I'm any good at it.
Just from doing it. Exactly.
Yeah. But you just have to learn how to edit and talk and it's funny actually when I started doing that, I actually started improving my speech, because you listen back to it and there's so many sure.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, I've got a lot of that in my speech. So just trying new things is, and being around people who do try new things, I find very it's essential.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with I make videos and blog. The first ones were terrible, as they should be. It happened to me actually when I skateboarded for 10 years, right? And I'd always be like, oh, you should come skating one time. Like, oh, I can't do it. It's like, no one can do it the first go. It's like even Kobe Bryant couldn't play ball the first time he picked up a basketball, but he just kept going. Oh, Kobe Bryant's he's born with it, whatever. But like most people, like, oh, I don't know how to do marketing. Well, no one did at the start. You just have to learn it. It's not like this thing that you just get given, or one day you're like, oh, I can do Facebook ads. Yeah. Same with literally anything in life, and that's why Richard Branson said, it's better to do something imperfectly than nothing perfectly. Yeah. So just get started and just fall along the way and figure it out. That's what you should do for life. My number one biggest tip for every time someone says, what's your first piece of advice? It's just get started. Yeah. It's the biggest thing. Yeah. You'll figure it out.
I think that's good advice. So let's talk about investment for a second. Do you think there's too much focus placed on investment? Because when there's a lot of people who want to make an app or build a tech company, do you need investment to do it?
It's subjective, obviously. Some businesses you will need investment. If it's your first business and you need millions of dollars to start it, you're probably not equipped to start that business, because even once you get it, you don't know what to do with it. So you don't need it to start a business. I think the first business you ever do should be a low-cost learning experience, like $5,000. If you lose it, it's fine. If you've never done an app and you want to raise like upwards of $200,000, it's like you don't have the experience. Like, first of all, you don't need it. Second of all, you're probably going to screw it up. And thirdly, an investor is not going to want to give you that amount of money if you've never done it. Yeah. Like, an investor is more likely to give me money now because I've done it and screwed it up, and I'm still going. Whereas you're taking a big chance on someone that's never done it and wants money. The other thing is people celebrate like getting money more than they do creating a good business.
Yeah, what's the go with that?
It's just an ego thing, I think, to be honest. Because first of all, they can say that they did it, and they can say the company's now valued at this. So I haven't done shit, and my company's now valued at $1 million because I raised $100,000 for 10%. Like, you don't have a business. The business is not good yet. You can have a fiery death that's just going to look worse now that you raised money and still didn't pull it off. Yep. And so,
but the headlines read valued at $20 million, raised $1.25 million. That's what the headlines read.
Yeah. Now. Well, as good as I think press is, it's not useful in terms of the functioning, like, operational side of the business. It's great for social proof. It's good for marketing. But you getting in the press doesn't mean that your business is good. People tell stories all the time. Sometimes journalists tell stories just because they have nothing else to tell. It's like Tinder for food. That's a fun thing to put in a magazine. Yep. But that doesn't help me with the business and getting money. It just looks good. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people, the ego comes into it. I'm talking to a guy on Twitter at the moment, actually, who hit me up and said, "Hey, I love what you did. I've got this thing. We're looking at raising $200,000 for this. What do you think?" And I was like, what? Like, there's so much else that you need to tell me before. Like, I don't think you should. I said, have you done a business before? I said, it's in development. I was like, someone wants to give you $200,000 before you've even made something. And he's like, oh, that's what we're thinking of going for. I was like, what? You're focusing so much on the money. Like, focus on the business. He goes, oh, but this other company did it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, you focus on the business and not the money. Yeah. Obviously, you need money as part of a business. If you can go without it, I think you absolutely should. I think that if you can fund it yourself or from friends and family, that's the good way to go. Obviously, comes with the risk of letting your family down. But, I think that investors are...
Well, you're just trying to pass the buck to the investor. Otherwise, if you don't know what you're doing, you say, "Give me $200,000 to build an app." You're saying, "Give me your money, and I might blow it, but at least I'll learn."
Yeah, don't worry, you'll pay for my education. No, but you should at least invest some of your own money. And every investor wants to see, if you want me to put this money in, why haven't you put anything in? If it's as good as you say it is, why haven't you done it? And so we almost raised money at the start, not because we needed it to build the Android and stuff. Yep. And so because I'd put so much of my own money in, it made it more appealing because it's like he's backing himself. Yep. And again, that'll probably be useful for future things that I do. It's like he put this much money of his own stuff into it, not just crossing his fingers and being like, "Hey, I'll manage it for you." Even $50,000, even $20,000 is a lot of. It's. I know to some investors it might not seem like much, but that's still $20,000. Yeah, it's not just money to throw away. You should treat it like it's your own money, and you should make it feel like $50,000. Yeah, you should treat it like you have nothing. And so when you start up, you've got to be lean. I actually met with this guy the other day who was he's sort of transitioning into like out of a startup. Yep. We were saying he was paying 6 figures to this branding agency, and I was like, "No, we're lean." And I was like, I don't think you know what that means. Like, that's not lean. That's very expensive. Yeah. So yeah, going back to the investment topic, another thing is that it puts another person into the business that you have to keep updated all the time, and they contribute to making decisions. You got to pay for lawyers to get it done. Like it's such a process. And the other thing is that a lot of investors want their money back. They want a return on their investment, so they might want to sell it before you want to sell it.
Yeah.
So you might get to a certain point where it's going really well, and they're like, "Cool, let's sell it." And you're like, "No, I don't want to." Like, "Yeah, well, we have to because I own you."
Yeah.
Depending on the contract, of course.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing. And legals as well is like they sign away their life and they don't realize what they've just done. There might be a thing in there that says if you miss lunch 4 days in a row, I get everything. So there's just little things like that.
Well, the legals would be an interesting point because I don't know if anyone thinks of that before they go for,
no, they just think money, carrot.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got it. Yeah, and they don't look over it and they think, oh, we don't want to waste money on a lawyer to check it. It's just, focus on the business first. If you can, and ironically, you're going to get way more money if you do it first by yourself. You should only raise money if you need it to grow the business.
Yep.
So I don't think anybody should. You should have some money at the start.
Yep.
If you have $0, you shouldn't start a business. You can plan it and everything, but the first initial bit should at least be your own money. Because if you're not going to put $1,000 in, why should this guy put 50 grand in?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah,
it's a good point. Mitch, it's been a pleasure. Where
Yes.
can we find you?
Where can you find me? I'm on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. All Mitch Hills, MITCHILLS. It's not 2 H's.
Okay.
Thought it'd be creative, but years down the track, it proved problematic because everyone does it. Mitch Hills with 2 H's. Mastermarketing.com is good. The AroundAboutApp.com, and probably the most practical is the exceptionsnetwork.com. So that's just a community for young entrepreneurs. It's free. It's just really good advice, weekly content.
Yep.
We've also just made an ultimate startup blueprint as well. So like it's literally everything you need to start a business for $97.
Cool.
Like everything. Like there's $20,000 worth of stuff worth in here. It's all the stuff I've ever put out, never created, and ever said in interviews, and everything I've learned all in one book, combined with some insights from the best authors and industry experts. It's so worth it.
Awesome. And that's at The Exceptions, is it?
TheExceptionsNetwork.com.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Mitch, it's been awesome.
My pleasure.
So thanks for listening to this episode of the Be The Push podcast. You can find all the show notes at bethepush.com/podcast. I appreciate your company and I hope to talk to you soon.